I'll never forget the sound of her spoon against the glass. Clink, clink, clink. Everyone at the table went quiet. My mom stood up at the head of the dining room, wine glass raised, that fake warm smile plastered across her face, the one she used for church people and Facebook photos. "Tonight," she said, "I want to say how proud I am of my children." "Well," she laughed, glancing right past me, "one of them, anyway." People chuckled politely. My stomach dropped. Then she said it, the line that split my entire life into a before and an after. "Only one of my kids really made something of themselves, and it's definitely not our wandering disappointment over there." She tilted her glass in my direction like I was a punchline. If your own mother said that about you at a family dinner with cousins, neighbors, and your boss sitting there, tell me honestly, would you walk out or snap right there at the table? Because me, I just stared at her. I felt my face go hot, my fingers numb around my fork. The room felt like it was slowly pushing away from me, everyone becoming blurry shapes around this one sharp, crystal-clear moment. I saw my older sister Claire shift uncomfortably in her seat. My younger cousins tried not to look at me. My boss, Mr. Daniels, cleared his throat and took a sip of water like maybe he'd misheard. My mom smiled, savoring the silence. "One child," she continued, placing a hand on Claire's shoulder, "went to law school, got married, bought a home. The other," she shrugged, "dropped out of college, can't hold out real job, still renting a shoebox apartment. Some people just don't want to grow up, I guess." A few people laughed. Some didn't know what to do. She loved that. I took a slow breath. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't have to look to know what that was. Right on time. "Anyway," Mom said brightly, "at least I have one child I'm proud to introduce to people." She lifted her glass a little higher. "To my successful daughter, Claire." Everyone repeated, "To Claire," and took a drink. I just watched my mom, the woman who had told everyone I was a failure, the woman who thought I would never fight back, the woman who had absolutely no idea that in less than 10 minutes, I was going to tear down the entire version of reality she'd built around herself. Because while she was busy calling me a disappointment, my lawyer was walking up the front steps with a folder that could ruin her life. But to understand how I ended up at that table, quietly planning to expose my own mother in front of everyone she wanted to impress, I have to take you back to the beginning. Back to when I didn't have any power. Back to when I didn't even know what she'd done to me. Growing up in my house, you didn't need to be told who the favorite was. You could feel it. You could see it in the way my mom's face lit up whenever Claire walked into a room, the way she spoke about her like she was some mythical creature. My Claire is gifted. My Claire is going places. My Claire has potential. Me? I was good with kids, helpful around the house, sensitive, and my personal favorite, not really academic. That one stung extra because it wasn't true. I worked my ass off in school. I wasn't some naturally gifted genius, but I studied. I stayed after class. I tutored other students for extra credit. I did everything you're supposed to do when you're trying to climb your way out of being invisible. But in my house, effort didn't matter. Image did. When Claire got a B+ on a test, Mom would bake a cake. When I got an A, Mom would glance at it and say, "Well, let's see if you can keep it up. One A doesn't mean much." If you've ever been the least favorite in your own family, you know how that feels. It's not one big moment, it's 1,000 small ones that slowly teach you you are not enough by default. I remember one night when I was 16. I just found out I got into state on a partial scholarship. I ran into the kitchen, waving the letter, practically vibrating with excitement. "Mom, look, I got in. They even gave me money." She was at the counter, frosting cupcakes for Claire's mock trial team or whatever activity she was obsessed with that month. She didn't even turn fully around. "That's nice," she said. "Did Claire get her debate scores back yet?" A few minutes later, Claire walked in, complaining about getting second place in some competition. Mom put everything down and hugged her like she had just survived a war. I stood there with the acceptance letter dangling from my hand. In that moment, something sank in my chest. I realized I could win a Nobel Prize, and my mom would ask if Claire had gotten anything similar. But weirdly, none of that was what truly broke me. What broke me was what she did with my future, and the money that was supposed to pay for it. So, fast forward. I get into state, not as glamorous as Claire's private university and then law school, but still solid. We weren't rich, but my parents had always said the same thing growing up. We've been saving for your college since you were born. We want you to have what we didn't. There was this phrase I heard all the time, the college fund. It was like this invisible safety net I never saw but always believed in. Whenever things got tight, Mom would say, no, we don't touch the college fund. That's for the kids. So when I started at State, I didn't panic the way some of my friends did. I signed some loans, sure, but I believed her. First semester, everything was okay. Books, dorm, basic stuff. It was tight, but manageable. Then one day, I got an email from the financial aid office. Subject, urgent, tuition past due. I thought it was spam, some glitch. I marched down to the office ready to straighten it out. But when I got there and showed my student ID, the woman behind the desk frowned. "Looks like your payment bounced," she said. "We sent notices to the primary payer." "That's my parents," I said slowly. "There must be some mistake." She shook her head. "We've sent 3 reminders. If it's not resolved in 2 weeks, you'll be automatically dropped from your classes." My ears rang. I called my mom from a bench outside the office, hands shaking. She didn't even sound surprised. "Oh, that," she said. "Yeah, we've had some issues. Money's been tight." "Tight?" I repeated. "What about the college fund?" There was a pause. Then, way too casually, she said, "We had to use some of that when your dad's hours got cut, and then when the roof needed fixing, and then when we helped Claire with her bar prep stuff. It's complicated." My throat closed up. "Use some of it?" I whispered. "How much is left?" She exhaled loudly, annoyed. "We'll figure it out. Isn't there more aid you can apply for? I'm in the middle of something. We'll talk about this later, okay?" She hung up. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling like the ground had been yanked out from under me. 2 weeks later, I was officially withdrawn from classes for non-payment. To everyone else, it looked like I'd dropped out. My mom let them think that. She actually told people I wasn't ready for college and I couldn't handle the workload. When my aunt asked about me at a barbecue, I heard my mom laugh and say, "Some kids just aren't built for school. At least Claire's focused." I was standing close enough to hear every word. I can't even describe what it's like to be thrown under the bus like that by your own mother over something she caused. If this had happened to you, would you have confronted her right then, or swallowed it like I did and told yourself you'd find a way back someday? Because at that point, I didn't know what she'd really done. I just thought she'd mismanaged things and prioritized Claire. I had no idea it was worse than that. Way worse. After I dropped out, I moved back home for a while. Worst decision ever. Mom treated me like an overgrown child, like a failure who had crawled back. She'd say things like, "Well, not everyone is cut out for higher education," loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. But she let Claire move back in for 6 months after law school without a single comment. "Claire just needs a base while she job hunts," she'd say. "She's too smart to get stuck somewhere small." Me? When I started working at a daycare to save money, Mom told people I was watching kids until I figured out what to do with my life. Anytime I tried to bring up going back to school, she'd dismiss it. "College is overrated now anyway. Be realistic." "Be realistic" became her favorite phrase. But then, one day, a piece of mail changed everything. It was a simple, boring-looking envelope from the bank. I found it in the stack by the door while I was looking for something addressed to me. The only reason I even noticed it was because my name was on it along with hers. Joint account information enclosed. My heart skipped. I didn't have a joint account with my mom. I shouldn't have, at least. Curiosity burned through my guilt as I opened it. Inside was a statement for an account I'd never seen before. Account name, College Custodial, Minor, my name. Custodian, Linda Harris. That's my mom. The balance line made my vision tunnel. Starting balance 5 years ago, $64,204.43. Ending balance last year, $326.10. There were withdrawals, big ones. $10,000 for home repair, $15,000 for personal check, $12,500 for wire transfer, Claire Harris, $8,000 for online transfer, primary checking. Over and over and over. It felt like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my lungs. This wasn't mismanagement. She had taken almost every dollar that was supposed to be for my education and used it like her personal savings account. I remember sitting on the stairs, statement in my hand, hearing the TV in the living room and my mom laughing at something. I remember thinking, there has to be some explanation. There has to be. Later that night, when she went to take a shower, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went into her home office and opened the bottom drawer of her file cabinet. She kept everything. I found more bank statements, old financial aid paperwork, and a file with Will, Mom, written on it in blue ink. My grandma's will. I hesitated. My hands were shaking so badly the papers rattled, but something in my gut told me to keep going. Inside that file was a photocopy of my grandma's will and a letter from her lawyer. I remember reading the same paragraph 3 times before it hit me. It said, in plain English, I leave my house and all associated property located at 742 Maple Lane to my grandchild, my name, for purposes of education and future stability. Not to my mom, to me. My grandma had left me her house. The house my mom currently lived in, the house my mom had always referred to as mine whenever anyone asked. I flipped through the rest of the file. There was a handwritten note from my grandma, the one person in the family who'd ever treated me like I wasn't second place. In her shaky cursive, it said, I know you don't have the same support as Claire. I hope this helps you build something for yourself. Don't let anyone make you feel small. I had to sit down on the floor. Because here's the thing, I was there when my grandma died. I remembered the weeks after. I remembered my mom coming home and saying, there wasn't much in the will, split a few things, nothing major. The house comes to me since I'm the oldest. That's just how these things go. I believed her. Everyone did. But the document in my hands told a different story. The house was supposed to be mine. And the college fund she'd drained, it matched almost exactly what the letter said my grandma's life insurance payout had been. Everything started connecting in my head like a horrible puzzle snapping together. Grandma leaves me the house, so I'll have security and a way to pay for school. Mom takes the insurance payout, opens an account in my name for college, then spends it on herself and Claire. Mom moves into the house like she owns it. Then, when I can't pay tuition because money is tight, she lets everyone think I failed. Tell me, if you found out your own mother stole your inheritance and sabotaged your future, what would you have done first? Scream at her? Call a lawyer? Walk out and never go back? Because I did none of those things. Not right away. I did something much quieter. I took pictures. Every page, every statement, every paragraph of the will. I snapped photos with my phone and emailed them to myself, then to a brand new email I created on the spot. Then I put everything back exactly where I found it. I didn't sleep that night, or the next. The rage was there, white hot and blinding, but underneath it was something else. Strategy. I knew if I confronted her with just words, she'd spin it. She'd say I misunderstood. She'd say I was ungrateful. She might even lose the documents. I needed someone who could tell me legally what this all meant. So, a week later, after 3 nights of pretending I was fine and going to work like nothing was wrong, I asked my boss, Mr. Daniels, if I could talk to him. I worked at a small accounting firm. Nothing crazy. Data entry, scheduling, phone calls. But Mr. Daniels had always been kind to me. The kind where he actually listened when you spoke, not the superficial kind people use for customer service. He closed his office door when I stepped inside. You look like you've seen a ghost, he said. Everything okay? That's when I pulled out my phone. Can you tell me if this looks legal? He frowned, took the phone, and started scrolling.
I watched his eyes go from curious to focused to something like anger. "How long have you had these?" he asked quietly. "Since last week," I whispered. He took a breath. "That custodial account, that's your money, was. And this will, if this is accurate and unchanged, that house legally belongs to you. But my mom may have committed fraud," he said. "Maybe more than one kind." My stomach flipped. "I can recommend a lawyer," he said gently, "someone who deals with estate issues. This is not small." The next few months were a blur of quiet meetings, signatures, and serious faces. The lawyer he recommended, Miss Patel, was calm and precise. She reviewed everything, pulled records, got copies from the courthouse. Turned out, my mom had actually filed an updated version of the will. One where the house went to my beloved daughter Linda. One that conveniently did not mention me at all. The signature at the bottom? It looked like my grandma's. Mostly. But according to the document log, it had been signed 3 days after my grandma was already dead.
So yeah, my mom had gone from manipulative and cruel to we could probably put her in jail if we wanted to. Miss Patel laid it all out for me one afternoon across a table scattered with paper. "We have a few options," she said. "You can press charges, we can file a formal contest to void the fraudulent will, we can sue for damages related to the misuse of your college fund." Would she go to prison? I asked. She didn't answer right away. "There's a chance," she said. "Forging a will and misusing custodial funds is serious, but the question is, what do you want?" That question wrapped around my brain and stayed there for days. What did I want? Revenge? Money? The house? An apology? I didn't know. What I did know was that for the first time in my life, I wasn't powerless. I had leverage. I had proof. I had people on my side who didn't think I was crazy or too sensitive. And the more I thought about it, the more one idea took root in my mind. My mom had built her entire identity around being the respectable one, the devoted mother, the responsible adult, the woman who held the family together. She loved attention, loved being seen as the hero. So what would hurt her more than anything? Not prison, not a quiet lawsuit, but the truth, revealed in front of every person whose opinion she cared about. And the beautiful part? We could do both. We could take legal steps, and we could time the reveal. So that brings us back to the dinner, my mom's 60th birthday. She'd planned it herself, obviously. Catered, dress code, twinkly lights in the backyard, just close family and a few important friends, she'd said, which roughly translated to everyone whose validation she craved. She put me in charge of helping with the slideshow, old photos of her, of us, of family vacations, as if sentimental music and childhood pictures would erase everything. I said yes. I was very agreeable in the weeks leading up to it. I smiled more, I said "you're right" a lot. I let her believe, just for a while longer, that I was still the quiet, easy-to-blame disappointment. Meanwhile, Miss Patel was filing paperwork, challenging the will, freezing any transfer of the house, calculating damages on the drained college account. Mr. Daniels, my boss, agreed to come to the dinner as my +1 since my mom insisted everyone bring someone. She thought it made things look more polished. She didn't realize she was inviting the man who had helped me unravel her entire financial mess. We picked that night because the first formal notice of legal action was scheduled to be served a following morning. Meaning, by the time dessert was done, the truth would be unavoidable. Which brings us back to the moment she tapped the glass. "Only one of my kids really made something of themselves," she said. I felt my phone buzz in my pocket again. I knew what it said without checking. "Miss Patel, I'm outside, ready when you are." Mom kept going with her speech, soaking in the attention. "Claire bought a house this year," she bragged, "passed the bar on her first try, married a wonderful man. Meanwhile, our other one," she gestured vaguely toward me, "well, some people just take longer to figure it out, if they ever do." Laughter. Not from everyone, but enough.
The old version of me would have swallowed it, forced a smile, gone home and cried. The current version? She set down her fork. Can I say something? I asked. Mom looked annoyed at the interruption, but quickly covered it with a smile when she remembered she had an audience. Oh, sure, honey, she said. Would you like to thank everyone for coming? Not exactly, I said. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. My hands shook, but my voice was steady. If you don't mind, I added, I just want to correct a few things. The air changed. You know that feeling when you're watching a movie and you can tell a big scene is about to happen? That's exactly how the room felt. Mom laughed lightly. Here we go, our dramatic one. Just don't make it about you, okay? I looked right at her. Funny, I said. That's exactly what I was thinking. A couple of people snorted quietly. Mom's eyes flashed. Sweetheart, she said through her teeth, this is my night. I know, I said. That's why this is the perfect time. The perfect time to finally show everyone who you really are. I didn't say that part out loud. Yet. Tell me honestly, I said. If you found out someone stole tens of thousands of dollars from you, lied about it, and sabotaged your future, would you stay quiet to protect them? A hush fell over the table. My aunt shifted in her seat. Cousins glanced at each other. Claire frowned. What are you talking about? Mom demanded. Laugh gone now. Don't start one of your stories. It's not a story, I said. It's my life. Someone cleared their throat at the doorway. I looked up and saw Miss Patel standing there, in a blazer, holding a black folder. Right on cue.
Mr. Daniels stood up and pulled out a chair for her. Sorry I'm late, she said calmly. I was invited. Mom blinked. Who are you? This is Miss Patel, I said, my lawyer. The word hung in the air like smoke. You're what? Mom scoffed. Since when do you have a lawyer? Since you stole my college fund, I said. Gasps. You could hear them. Actual gasps. Claire's hand shot up to her mouth. One cousin dropped his fork. My boss kept his eyes on his water glass, giving me space. Mom's face flushed. That's ridiculous, she snapped. I did no such thing. She's always been dramatic. Don't listen to her. I pulled my phone from my pocket, swiped, and turned the screen to face the table. This, I said, is the custodial account you opened with Grandma's life insurance money. In my name, for my education. Here are the withdrawals, all of them. Funny how they line up with the home remodel, your new car, Claire's bar program, and the trip you took to Cancun. My aunt leaned forward, squinting. Linda, is that true? Mom's voice turned high and thin. She doesn't understand how these accounts work. We borrowed from it, that's all. We were going to pay it back. Things happen. For 10 years? I asked. Because the bank statements say otherwise. Mom glared at me. You had every opportunity. You dropped out. I was kicked out, I cut in, because tuition wasn't paid. Because you told me there was a college fund when there wasn't. Because you spent the money that wasn't yours. Claire spoke for the first time. Mom, is this real? Mom looked around, eyes wide, searching for someone to back her up. Of course not, she said weakly. She's twisting things. You know how she is, always blaming everyone else for her mistakes. I almost laughed, because that's exactly what she'd always said. She's not twisting anything, Miss Patel said calmly, finally opening her folder. I've reviewed the documents, the bank records, and the will. The what? My uncle asked. Mom stiffened. You had no right. The will, I repeated. Grandma's will. The real one. The one you lied about. I took a deep breath. Everyone here, I said, sweeping my eyes across the room, knows this house as Linda's house, right? She's told you all she inherited it? A few nods, a few murmurs of agreement. Except that's not what Grandma wanted, I said. She actually left it to me. I nodded at Miss Patel. She slid a copy of the original will onto the table, right in front of my dad. He'd been quiet the whole time, face pale, eyes fixed on his plate. His hand trembled as he picked up the paper. He read it. His lips moved silently over the line.
I leave my house and all associated property to my grandchild. His eyes flicked up to mine. You? He whispered. I nodded. Mom slammed her hand on the table. Stop it, she snapped. You're ruining my birthday with this insanity. Insanity? I said. You forged a new will with your own name on it 3 days after Grandma died. Someone choked on their drink. What? My aunt breathed. That's not true, Mom said, but her voice cracked. Miss Patel slid another page onto the table. This is the version of the will currently filed, she said, signed and dated after your mother's date of death. My uncle shook his head. Linda, that's illegal. Mom's hand shook as she reached for the paper. You don't understand how complicated things were. She wanted me to have the house. She said it. She was confused near the end. She wasn't, I said quietly. She left a note, in her own handwriting. I found it in your file. I pulled out my phone again and showed the photo. The note. Don't let anyone make you feel small. My voice shook slightly as I read the rest aloud. She was clear. She wanted me to be okay. She knew I didn't have the same support Claire did. And you took that from me. For a second, nobody spoke. Even the air felt heavy. Then Claire pushed her chair back and stood up. Mom, she said, voice shaking, Did you know this was supposed to be theirs? Mom's eyes darted between us. I did what was best for the family, she spat. I kept a roof over all our heads. I helped you through law school. I managed everything while your father, she jerked her head toward him, checked out. Dad flinched. And you, she rounded on me, you were always so ungrateful. Nothing was ever enough. You never thanked me, not once. Thank you, I repeated, staring at her. For what? For using me as an excuse to get money? For watching me drown and blaming me for not swimming? I leaned forward. For letting everyone believe I failed when you literally pulled the floor out from under me. Tell me honestly, I said, looking around the table. If this was your child, would you have done this? Would you have taken their money and their home and then called them a disappointment? No one said yes. In fact, no one said anything. Until my dad finally spoke. Linda, he said quietly, is it true?
His voice was so soft, we all leaned in. Did you spend the college money? She folded her arms, defensive. We needed it. Did you forge the second will? She hesitated. I corrected it, she said. That was all he needed. He let out a breath like it had been trapped inside him for years. I thought you just misunderstood something, he said. I thought you were confused, but you knew. He looked at me. I'm so sorry, he whispered. Something in my chest cracked at that. My dad wasn't perfect. He was distant, checked out, conflict avoidant, but this was the first time he'd ever said he was sorry. Mom's voice shrilled. You're taking their side after everything I've done? I'm taking the truth's side, he said. I straightened up. Here's why we're doing this now, I said, forcing my voice to steady. Tomorrow morning, you're going to get official notice. The will is being contested. The bank knows what happened with the custodial account. We could push for criminal charges. Miss Patel thinks we'd win. Mom's face was white. But, I continued, I told her I wanted to give you one chance to own what you did, one chance to do something right for once. I swallowed. If you sign the house over to me, like Grandma wanted, and agree to a repayment plan for the college fund, we won't push for prison time. You'll keep your record clean. You won't go to court in handcuffs. You'll just have to live with what everyone in this room now knows. The room was dead silent. You could hear the air conditioning. You could hear someone's watch ticking. My mom stared at me like she didn't recognize me. You can't do this, she whispered. I'm your mother. Yeah, I said, you are. And look what you did with that. She laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. You think anyone here believes you? She snapped. You think they're going to side with you over me? I've been there for everyone in this room. I've cooked for them, helped them, lent them money. My aunt cleared her throat. Some of that money, she said carefully, was apparently the kids. Mom's head snapped toward her. So you're against me too? I'm not against anyone, my aunt said. I'm just shocked. You let us think your kid just quit school. You never said it was because you hadn't paid. My cousin spoke up. I always thought you dropped out, he admitted, looking at me. I didn't know. I shrugged, even though my throat was tight. It was easier to let everyone think that than fight a story she'd already sold. Why didn't you say anything? Claire whispered. Because I didn't have proof, I said. Now I do. Claire sat down again, looking sick. Mom shook her head. You're cruel, she hissed at me. You waited for my birthday to humiliate me. You've always hated me. I looked at her, really looked at her. At the woman who had shaped so much of my life, for better and worse. I don't hate you, I said quietly. I stopped trying to love you the way you wanted. That's different. Her eyes filled with tears. For a second, the room went blurry, and I saw her how she must see herself. The martyr, the victim, the misunderstood hero. But then, I remembered sitting on those dorm steps, reading the email about my tuition. I remembered her calling me a quitter. I remembered the way she said failure, like it was my legal name. And something hard settled in my chest again. I gave you everything, she said weakly. You gave me a story, I replied, about who I was. And you needed me to stay small in it. I'm rewriting it now. Miss Patel cleared her throat. Mrs. Harris, she said professionally, I'll be sending over the documents tomorrow. I hope, for everyone's sake, that you will sign. Mom's shoulders sagged. What if I don't? She whispered. Miss Patel didn't flinch. Then we see you in court, and everything you heard tonight becomes part of the public record. For someone who cared more about appearances than anything, that was the real knife. Not the law, the gossip. Mom's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. She sank into her chair like the fight had finally left her body. I stood up. I'm going to head out, I said. Thank you for dinner. I turned to the rest of the table. And I'm sorry you had to hear it like this. But honestly, I'm more sorry I let the lie go on this long. I walked around the table. As I passed my dad, he grabbed my hand. I want to talk, he murmured. Not tonight, but soon. I squeezed his fingers. Okay, I said. Claire stood up and hugged me suddenly, hard. I had no idea, she whispered into my shoulder. I'm so sorry for everything Mom said, for not asking, for all of it. I hugged her back. It's not your fault, I said. But maybe now you understand why I felt the way I have. She nodded, wiping her eyes. I walked out of that house, my house, technically, with my head high. My heart was racing, my hands were shaking. But for the first time in my life, I felt tall, powerful even. Not because I destroyed my mother, not because of the gasps or the looks or the drama, but because I'd finally told the truth, out loud, and nothing exploded. The world didn't end. It just rearranged. In the weeks that followed, things moved fast. Mom didn't fight the will. I think the public humiliation, the thought of a courtroom, the possibility of being exposed even further, that broke something in her. She signed the papers. The house transferred to my name. Legally, officially, exactly how my grandma intended. Miss Patel set up a repayment agreement for the misused funds. It wasn't perfect. Some of the money was gone forever, but there was enough to make a difference. My dad insisted on contributing. I should have paid more attention, he said. I trusted her with everything. That's on me. I didn't argue with him. I just told him I appreciated it. Mom and we didn't talk for a while. She stayed in the house at first as part of the agreement, a tenant technically. That word burned her. Eventually, she chose to move out. That place doesn't feel like home anymore, she said in a short text. You've poisoned it. I stared at the message for a long time before replying. Grandma made it mine long before I ever opened my mouth, I wrote. You just finally had to accept that. She didn't respond. I still don't know if she will someday. Claire and I grew closer. She started asking more questions about my life instead of just talking about hers. We laughed about stupid things from childhood we'd never processed. She apologized more than once. I believed everything Mom said about you, she admitted. I thought you were flaky, unfocused. I feel sick about that now. You saw what she wanted you to see, I said. I did too, for a long time. My dad started coming over on weekends to help fix things around the house. I wasn't much of a dad before, he said one afternoon while repainting the living room. I'd like to try again. I didn't know what that meant yet, but I was willing to find out. With the partial repayment and some grants, I re-enrolled in school, this time with my name on the deed of a house I could use for security, not as a weapon. I took classes at night while still working at the accounting firm. Mr. Daniels gave me a promotion. If you can navigate family fraud, he joked, you can absolutely handle tax season. I'm not going to pretend everything instantly became perfect. It didn't. There were days I felt guilty, like I had destroyed something that couldn't be rebuilt. There were nights I wondered if I'd gone too far, if I should have handled it quietly. But then I'd remember sitting at that dinner table, hearing my own mother tell a room full of people she was only proud of one of her kids, and it wasn't me. I'd remember the years of feeling like a failure when I'd never been given a fair chance. And I'd look around at the life I was building now, a life where a degree was actually in sight, a life where my grandma's house was being slowly turned into something warm and mine, not a monument to my mom's stolen image. And I'd think, no, I didn't go too far. I finally went far enough. So yeah, my mom told everyone I was a failure. She weaponized my struggles. She stole from me and then blamed me for falling. And I revealed her biggest secret at dinner, in front of everyone she'd trained to see me through her warped lens. Do you think I was right to do what I did? Would you have kept it private, pressed charges, walked away entirely? Because here's the truth I learned the hard way. Sometimes the only way to stop being the villain in someone else's story is to tell the real version of it yourself, loudly, clearly, even if your voice shakes. I didn't lose a mother that night. I finally stopped losing myself.